everybody. Paul Millsap here with my wife Christy, shooting this from our North Texas home in our living room. Just wanted to take a few minutes to share a little story with you that I know it's simple little things happen in our lives sometimes, and I have a habit of when those things happen, sometimes they just don't go away. I just keep coming back and I start thinking about it more and more, and usually get a little lesson out of it from the Lord. And this is one of those instances. I just wanted to share it with you guys, and hopefully you'll get something out of it too. As I said, we live in North Texas, and we're out in the country, and there's nice little blacktop roads out here that make for nice motorcycle rides. And I like to do that whenever I can, when the weather permits. And here a while back, I was on one of those rides, and just a couple miles north of our home here, and kind of come around a little corner and noticed there was a little squirrel on the right side of the road, which that's nothing unusual. We have lots of wildlife here. But you know, they're a little unpredictable, so I was kind of watching him a little to see what he was going to do, and kind of made a little room for him, moved over a little bit more to the center of the road there. But yeah, my motorcycle's kind of loud, you know, and I was going, you know, at a pretty good speed there, so it all happens pretty fast. But like I say, he was on the right side of the road, everything seemed fine. I was giving him a little space, and just as I get right up close to him, he decides to run out in the middle of the road and just start literally going in circles. I mean, he just started just frantically running in circles. Of course, I wasn't sure what he was doing, so I moved over to the center, you know, of my lane a little bit and slowed down just a little bit, and luckily missed him. He kind of ran back in front of me again, but I didn't get him. So I looked in my rearview mirror, and he was over on the back where he started, on the right side of the road. And I thought, man, that crazy squirrel. Yeah, I don't know why he did that. So I just thought about that more and more as I rode, you know, and then as I got home and thinking about it, you know, throughout the end of the day, the rest of the day, and it just dawned on me, like, why did he do that? Well, number one, he's a squirrel, and you know, their brains are about the size of my little fingernail there, so not, you know, real bright, but sometimes they seem to show, you know, we've got a lot over here in our house, and sometimes they seem to show a lot of you know, they're clever at times. And so I thought, man, why in the world, you know, would he leave a place of safety and just put himself right in the middle of danger? Well, then it occurred to me he was afraid. And so then that went a little bit farther, you know, and I thought about myself. I started putting myself in situations, you know, where maybe I was afraid something was coming up the road and I didn't know, you know, what it was going to do, you know, and maybe possibly even left a place of perfect safety, you know, to put myself in the harm's way. And most of the time it's turned out just like for him. I didn't get harmed, but very well could have, you know, gotten harmed by that. So it dawned on me that, you know, when we react out of fear, we don't react usually wisely. We don't react rationally. We're usually frantic. He was very frantic. Like I say, he was just running in circles. Didn't know, you know, which way to go. I mean, had he just kept going across the road, he'd been fine. Or, I mean, there's so many things he could have done that would have been better than what he did. But he was reacting out of fear. And many times I do that myself. And I know we as humans tend to do that sometimes. We just react in fear. It's funny because we were watching a show last night, and there's this man that lives in Alaska, and has been homesteading there for years and years and years and years, and just faced all kinds of bears and, you know, all kinds of animals, things that could kill him. But he seems to take those on with no problem whatsoever. But he's helping other people in other places of the country, and he's dealing with things that he's not used to, like spiders, and I can't remember all the other things that he ran into, but things that I'm not afraid of. But he was scared to death, and actually like about killed himself once, you know, because he jumps off of a ladder and starts freaking out, you know, acting irrational. And it kind of, you know, solidified that thought, you know, how we do when we're afraid, we react. And I think, you know, a lot of experts will tell you it's because, you know, of the dangers, you know, that our ancestors faced, and things, you know, things that would kill them, and they had to react quickly, you know. that fear, that flight instinct kicks in. But I just know for myself, I don't react well when I work off of that. I work much better when when it's something that like that I'm not thinking in fear, but I'm actually reacting, calmly and properly and rationally. Just wanted to give you a couple of Bible verses that kind of goes along with that. Real popular one in 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, "For the Spirit of God gave us, it does not make us timid, but it gives us power, love, and self-discipline." So that's another big thing when we react out of fear. I know myself, I know that's not from God, because God tells us not to fear. God doesn't give us those things, the spirit of fear, but He gives us the spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. So let's break that down just a little bit. The spirit of love. Another verse says that perfect love casts out all fear. 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. So, the love, to me, love means security. And if you're secure in something, you're not afraid, right? Because you're secure. You know that something can hold your weight, something can, withstand whatever's coming. That way, you're not on your tippy toes waiting for something to happen. Because when you're in love, in the spirit of love, there's security. So obviously that squirrel didn't feel very secure at that moment. I mean, he was in a good, secure place. I'm not going to go down the ditch. I'm not going to take my motorcycle down the ditch to run over him, but he doesn't know that. So yeah. So then love, and then there's also power. In power, there's no fear, because when you're in power, you feel there's control, right? That's what I think of when I think of power. I think of the control. I think of, you're in a position where you're not afraid. God gives us that because of what He's done for us. We have that power. We have the power to say to things, as though they're, that they're not, So we see things that are not as though they are, and that's a position of power. So obviously that squirrel didn't feel much power at that moment, or he, wouldn't have done what he did. And then a sound mind. Obviously, he wasn't thinking straight. And I know a lot of times, we can kind of recap when we were in a situation and we react, in a way that maybe we didn't want to, and think about how you'd like to do it next time. And it's kind of like what I was saying a while ago about the guy that, from Alaska. He had not faced those particular things, because they don't have those things in Alaska. They don't have spiders. What else? I can't remember what else it was that he was.
Snakes.
Oh, snake, yes. He was afraid of snakes. They don't have those there either.
Lightning.
I'm not scared of spiders and snakes, because I've dealt with them a lot. I mean, I'm not, I don't go around and purposefully pick them up and play with them and things like that. But, I've dealt with them before. I know how to deal with them. So I'm coming from a position of maybe not love, but power and a sound mind for sure, right? Because I know I can kill that snake or move it or whatever I need to do, so that it doesn't harm me or someone else. And it just makes it totally different. Your thinking's totally different. So that's one of the things that I think that we should do, is when we do face those things and react, out of fear, is just to kind of recap and find out why, and then deal with those things, and ask God to help us next time, not to maybe react incorrectly, but to react out of knowing who we are and whose we are, that He has given us those things, and not the spirit of fear. The last scripture I wanted to talk about, Isaiah 41:13. He said, "I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you." And again, when we face things, especially things that are unknown, or things that maybe we haven't, really dealt with before, or maybe some people have fears of certain things. and like I said, I'm not really afraid of spiders or snakes, but I know people that are, and it's a real thing. Luckily, God's blessed me with that I'm not, so I can usually deal with that. If somebody goes, "Yeah, spider," I can deal with it, or snake, or something like that. But one of the biggest things to remember is that our God is with us, and in every situation. He said He's the Lord God who takes hold of your right hand. So just imagine, when you're going through those situations that you're literally standing there with God, holding your right hand. And He says, "Do not fear, I will help you." I can remember telling this several times. I remember my wife and I like to read Psalms 91, and the part where it says, "I am covered by His outstretched arms." I can just go back and imagine when I was a little boy. My dad was a big man, big man. And of course, when I was a kid, he just seemed way much, larger than what he really was. But he was a big man. And I can remember him letting me walk on his feet. I would stand on the top of his feet, and he would put his arms out like this, and I would hold on to his arms, and we would walk, And I can just remember that feeling of feeling so invincible, and just I felt 10 foot tall, because I was there with my father that loved me, and he was a big man, and he was capable, of protecting me, and just that feeling that I had, in that moment. I just want to be that way with God and know that, yes, my dad was a big man and he could protect me, but he had his limits. But God has no limit, and God will be with us, holding our hand, whatever you're going through, whatever thing you're afraid of, whatever thing is coming your way, He's right there with you. And I think when we remember that, that's going to really help us make much better decisions in those times. Yes, I know some of you, maybe didn't have a father like that. Maybe you were afraid of your father for a good reason. And I'm really sorry for that, because I know for me that's something that's really dear, to me, that I did have a good example on this earth of what it's like to have a good father. But I can tell you that, I've known people very closely that did not have good situations and good relationships with their father, or felt, maybe were even afraid of their father. And they've come to the Lord and found out what a perfect father He is, and that He keeps His promises when He says, "I'll be there and I'll hold your hand," that He really will do that. I know a lot of, fathers, I don't know any fathers that don't want to be a good father. Some people aren't capable. My dad wasn't perfect, in no way, shape, or form. But as I became a father, I understood a lot of things. I'm definitely not the father that I wanted to be. I'm not, I wanted to be there all the time and every single time, but I have limits. God doesn't have limits. God, is omnipresent. He knows everything. He knows He can be, multiple places at the same time. What a perfect father. And I would just invite you to allow Him to do that, regardless of how your relationship was with your earthly fathers. Just allow Him to be that father for you. Just allow Him to hold your hand and get you through those things. So there's my thought for the day, the lesson I learned from a squirrel. And like I say, that, that's just kind of how God deals with me. I see little things like that and just, kind of start thinking about it, and usually get a little lesson for myself out of it, because God says, you do that too. Sometimes you're a squirrel, Paul. But just thanks for joining in, and God bless. Hope you all have a great week.